Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we are doing, and I can't believe I'm saying this, the Fury versus Usyk breakdown video. As we are going to break down the unification Undisputed Heavyweight Championship fight that is finally taking place on February 17th on ESPN pay-per-view, as they'll collide from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Now, before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel, then I really appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel here. So this fight right here, it means a ton to the sport of boxing. We'll get into that in a minute, but if you haven't seen my breakdown videos before, in a championship fight like this, in a unification bout, it's a little different. Because, of course, we talked about the same things. What the fight means, how big it is, all that stuff, what it means to boxing. Then we get into each fighter. But normally when it's champion versus challenger, where you have the champion first, or if it's a non-title fight, it's the favorite versus the underdog. Well, in this one, I'm going to go with the A side and the B side. With Fury being the A side, I'll discuss him first, and then we'll discuss the same things, the same questions, ask the same questions about Alexander Usyk. And then at the end, is it better for boxing if one of the other wins? And then finally, who is going to win the fight, my prediction. So this fight right here is just enormous. It really is, guys. This is the first time in the four-belt era that an undisputed heavyweight champion is going to be crowned. I mean, we've circled around it, we've wanted it, but we haven't had the support like we have now. Even as of last year, the Saudi Arabia, His Excellency over there, that Turkey, Allah, whatever, he has made all this possible by bringing the money to the table. When the only time this fight was seriously going to be on was when Saudi Arabia was going to host it, and put the money into it. So that, when you put in the money like he has done, like Saudi Arabia has done, then the promoters decide to get along all of a sudden and aren't at each other's throats. And now with the Day of Reckoning card taking place, and Fury Ngannou, and different and a couple other cards taking place over there, they have the pull and the money backing them to provide a superstar showdown here between Fury and Usyk. And this fight, like I said, this is the first time in the four-belt era, but it's also the first time we've had an undisputed champion in 24 years. Because Lennox Lewis was the last undisputed heavyweight champion of the world back in the year 2000. He entered the year 2000 after he had defeated Evander Holyfield to unify the three belts at the time, which were the WBC, the WBA, and the IBF. He unified those belts when he defeated Holyfield in their rematch. And then in early 2000, he was stripped of the WBA title for not fighting John Ruiz and fighting undefeated Michael Grant instead. And that was the last time we had an undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. So this fight, after 24 years, is just so significant. And these two fighters have really separated themselves as the clear number one and number two in the division. And now, I'm glad in a sense that this fight has waited for a couple years now, because now I think it's more of a 50-50, close to a 50-50 fight, closer than it was before. And both these guys are extremely hungry, and they both are getting what they want. They're getting massive paydays, and there is an automatic rematch clause in the contract for the loser of this fight, no matter what. And it's the same as the Terrence Crawford-Errol Spence fight. The loser can, activate a rematch. And I believe they will. So this, like I said, this is just a monster fight that everybody should be tuning in for on February 17th. Now, let's start with going into each fighter. We start with the undefeated WBC heavyweight champion of the world, Tyson Fury. Fury enters this bout. You know, kind of a mixed bag on him right now entering this bout. He has the clear height and reach advantage in this fight. But he comes into it following, you know, a subpar performance against Francis Ngannou, which was his only fight in 2023, where he scored a 10-round split decision over Ngannou after Ngannou scored a knockdown earlier in the fight. And Ngannou, this was his first, you know, ever professional boxing match. So this really has made people wonder. Now, we'll come back to Ngannou in a minute, but his last 3 fights date back to, I think it was April of 2022, where he knocked out Dillian White in a mandatory title defense. Then he returned in December of 2022 and took on Derek Chisora for a 3rd time, and dominated Chisora, scoring a 10th round TKO victory as he stayed busy. And then, like I said, returned last year against Francis Ngannou and walked out of there with a somewhat controversial 10-round split decision win to, you know, to stay undefeated, as the WBC title was not on the line. And now he enters this fight, like I said, following that performance against Ngannou, he has lost some street cred, enough to where I dropped him from number 1 to number 2 when I thought he was the clear number 1. But that wasn't just on him. That was guys he has defeated that have made him great, like Deontay Wilder, you know, suffered a loss to Joseph Parker. So that hurt his status a little bit. But he's still coming in to this fight hungry. He wants to be the undisputed champion. I think he's going to be pissed off because I think he did overlook Francis Ngannou, and he's coming into this fight, I think, really motivated and knows what's at stake. And that's the thing, is Fury has always flourished as the underdog role. He really has. Those probably were his better performances. His victory over Anthony Joshua, he was the underdog. His performance against Deontay Wilder the first time was the underdog. The rematch, he was the underdog. You know, and those, in my opinion, are 3 of his finer performances of his career. So Tyson Fury likes when people are doubting him. He likes to prove himself. And I think he's going to be ready and hungry for this fight. Now, what does he need to do to win this fight against Alexander Usyk? And it's interesting because I think he needs, you know, he's been more, ever since he hooked up with Sugar Hill, he's adapted more of a physical style where he puts his body on his opponent more, you know, to feel his weight, to wear them down. More of a, I'm not going to call him a brawler because he still boxes, but he's less of a boxer than he used to be because he imposes his size on his opponent, which I absolutely think he needs to do with Usyk. But I think he needs to cautiously do that early on and get Usyk's timing down. I'd say do it in spurts, but not all at once. I say once he makes Usyk feel his power, once he, you know, sees what Usyk is bringing back, maybe feels Usyk's power, then start imposing that weight on him after the first few rounds so he could take him into the deep waters and drown him and get him tired. Because, again, the height and reach and weight is very significant in this fight. He's coming in with a 6-inch height advantage, a 7-inch reach advantage, and then I think he's probably going to have about 40 or 50 pounds minimum on Alexander Usyk. And I think he needs to use all 3 of those in this fight, and smart. But he does not need to pull straight back. He needs to make sure that he does. I don't think he should just go and impose his body and his weight and just in attack mode, because the one thing Alexander Usyk is fantastic at is his timing, is those carefully, perfectly timed, calculated punches that land flush, and those kind of punches hurt more than a bomb right there. They do. They hurt more than a big overhand, haymaker, because they're perfectly timed. And perfectly timed means they catch you when you don't see it coming. And we've seen Fury get hurt, and Alexander Usyk's power it's not blinding power like Deontay Wilder, but because he's so perfectly timed, he hits hard enough for you to feel him, which is why Anthony Joshua didn't attack Alexander Usyk more to try to go for the knockout, because Usyk was hitting him with good counter shots that really were affecting Anthony Joshua. And I think that's what he's planning on against Fury here as well. So Fury needs to be smart early on, use the height and reach advantage, and then maybe third, fourth round start imposing that body and that will on him to see what Usyk has, how much he has in a gas tank. As Fury, though, I mean, he's got a couple years on him, but they're both middle to later 30s now. Fury being 35 and Usyk being 37. Now, can Tyson Fury win this fight by knockout? And I think he can. I think he can one punch hurt Usyk. But for Fury, I think it's going to be more the accumulation, the breakdown of Usyk and stopping him in the late rounds, middle to late rounds. That's where I think he can beat him by a knockout. Now, can Tyson Fury win a decision over Alexander Usyk? I think he can. It's not going to be easy, but I think he can. And to be honest, I know a lot of people are going to be surprised to hear this, but I think he can win a clean decision win, but because of the height and reach, and because he does know how to box. But it's not going to be easy. I think if it goes to the scorecards, it is going to be close, in my opinion. But I do believe Fury possesses the talent and ability with the height and reach to be able to secure a convincing decision win. So we'll see. Now, what does a win mean for Tyson Fury? Well, you write his name down in the all-time history books with this victory. He's already got great wins in his career. Vladimir Klitschko, Deontay Wilder twice, knocking him out in the second and third fight. Those are Hall of Fame worthy type victories. He seals the deal on Hall of Fame without any doubt by defeating Alexander Usyk and becoming the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. That would be monstrous for Tyson Fury. It would be huge. And he's already such a big name that he really can just focus on those big money fights after that. Yes, a rematch with Usyk. But, I mean, I see after that, it's probably just rematch with Usyk, potentially Anthony Joshua, and maybe Francis Ngannou. And then that's it. He hangs them all up, So this seals his absolutely fantastic career. It would seal it with a kiss. So absolutely, the win would be the biggest of his career, and it would be huge. Now, what does a loss mean for Tyson Fury? A loss would definitely hurt Fury. It would be the first of his career. But it depends on how he loses. If he gets his ass whipped and knocked out, or loses a one-sided decision, that definitely hurts him more. But he has the rematch clause. So a loss isn't going to hurt as much. So, which is why taking risk in this fight for both fighters, it is okay. But a close loss, I don't think hurts them that bad, because again, these two guys are the cream of the crop and the top tier two premier heavyweights in this division right now. So a loss, again, I don't think it burns Fury too much, but he's not the best heavyweight, if he loses this fight. But the rematch clause, it doesn't really matter, because it gets him right back into it. So again, I don't think a loss really hurts Fury in this fight. So now let's switch over to the undefeated and unified heavyweight champion of the world, Alexander Usyk. Usyk enters this fight. His last 3 fights date back to September of 2021, where he scored the biggest victory of his career and upset 12-round unanimous decision over Anthony Joshua to become the unified heavyweight champion of the world. Huge victory here, dominated the action. He returned 11 months later in August of 2022 to make a mandatory rematch with Joshua, as Joshua had a rematch clause from the first fight. And this time it was closer, but he still controlled the action, beat Joshua to the punch, and walked away with a 12-round split decision to retain his unified heavyweight championship. Then he returned 1 year later in August of last year, 2023, to take on in a mandatory defense against WBA regular champion and his mandatory Daniel Dubois. After the Fury fight fell through last year, he was ordered to make his highest priority mandatory that was agreed upon by the 3 governing bodies, and it was against Dubois. And against Dubois, he pretty much, outside of a questionable beltline shot that landed, that was ruled a low blow that put Usyk down, he completely dominated Daniel Dubois and stopped him in the 9th round impressively to retain his unified title. So now he enters this fight, 2024. He's fought once per calendar year. This is actually his quickest turnaround in his last pretty much 3 years. This is going to be his quickest turnaround coming in against, it's going to go down as what, about a 6-month layoff in between fights. He's coming in against Fury hungry and motivated. Outside of that beltline shot, he dominated Dubois, and Dubois went on to look great against Jarrell Miller on the Day of Reckoning card. And then Anthony Joshua looked great against Otto Wallen, that made Usyk look even better because he decisively defeated both those fighters. So he's rolling into this one hungry. The fact that he has a rematch clause, I think he's pumped up and motivated. And Alexander Usyk really wants this fight right here. He wants to be undisputed champion in a second weight class. He become only the 3rd man to do it after Crawford and Naoya Inoue did it in 2023. Usyk has the opportunity to become only the 3rd man in the 4-belt era to accomplish undisputed, as he did it at cruiserweight a few years ago. So now, what kind of fight, what does Alexander Usyk need to do to defeat Tyson Fury? Well, it is not going to be easy. Tyson Fury has a 6-inch height, 7-inch reach advantage, and is probably going to come in about 40 to 50 pounds heavier. So Usyk, the kind of style of fight he needs to have is he needs to be ready to move. Yes, he's the older fighter, but his footwork is going to be key. But he cannot sit there in the pocket and mix it up with Fury, in my opinion. And the reason why is it's not going to be like Joshua. Joshua had about 25 pounds on Usyk. Tyson Fury is going to have about 40 to 50. He's got to make Fury move. And he can't allow Fury to press him and put that weight on him. He can't allow that. So I think he needs to be a little bit lighter on his feet. I think he'd be smart to come in around 215 for this fight. And that straight left hand needs to be ready to go in the short right hook. Because once Fury leans in, the short right hook, the straight left hand down the middle can be key to winning this fight. And he needs to time Tyson Fury and show Tyson Fury his power early on. I'm not saying he needs to take unnecessary risk, but Alexander Usyk needs to take risk in order to win this fight convincingly. Now, can Alexander win this fight by knockout? I think it's the less likely of outcomes between the 5 possible outcomes, which are a draw, and then there's more possible outcomes, but the likely ones, a draw, a knockout on either side, or decision on either side. I think Usyk scoring a knockout is less likely than anything else, but Usyk perfectly times his punches. He is a master boxer and genius boxer. He is fantastic. And he times his punches extremely well. And I think a perfectly timed shot can definitely hurt and put Fury down, in my opinion. So that means I do believe he can win this fight by knockout. I do. Now, can Usyk win a decision? I think he can. And again, like with Fury, call me crazy, I think he can win a clean decision. But I don't believe that if it goes to the scorecards on either side, that it's going to be a convincing decision win. I think if this goes to the scorecards, I think it's going to be close. So what does a win mean for Alexander Usyk here? Well, Usyk is already a Hall of Famer. What he has accomplished in his career is historic. Winning the World Boxing Super Series Season 1 the way he did, and that's the one thing about the cruiserweight division in Season 1. They pretty much got every one of their best fighters in that division in that tournament. And Usyk dominated former champ Maris Bradis in the first round, stopped him. Then he had to work his ass off against, I wasn't Maris Bradis, I'm sorry, Marco Huck in the first round. Then in the second round, the semifinals, he had to work his ass off against what's his name, Maris Bradis, and probably still the toughest fight of his career, as he escaped with a 12-round majority decision in a unification bout in Latvia, where Bradis is from. And then in the finals, he dominated Murat Gassiev, dominated him to unify all 4 belts and become the undisputed cruiserweight champion. Went on to dominate Tony Bellew to retain the undisputed title at cruiserweight. Moved up to heavyweight, defeated Derek Chisora, two victories over Anthony Joshua. You know, he has a Hall of Fame resume already. He's already a future Hall of Famer. To defeat Tyson Fury would just be astronomical. It would be huge for Alexander Usyk. He would go down as not just an all-time great heavyweight, but an all-time pound-for-pound fighter. And again, he would become undisputed in 2 different weight classes, something only Crawford and Inoue have done. So this would be huge for him, this victory. What does a loss mean for Alexander Usyk? And again, unless he gets absolutely obliterated against Fury, which I find it hard to believe, even if he were to lose by knockout, I think it's going to be competitive prior to the knockout. So I don't think either fighter is going to get obliterated in this fight. I just can't see that going down. So unless that were to happen, I think, I truly believe that he can, you know, a loss is not going to hurt him that bad, because this truly is a 50-50 style fight. Okay, so we're at the end of it. First off, is it better for boxing if Tyson Fury or Alexander Usyk wins this fight? And it is by far, in terms of name recognition, bigger fights going forward, it is better for boxing if Tyson Fury wins. But in this case, the dominance that Alexander Usyk has shown as a pound-for-pound fighter, beating Anthony Joshua not just once but twice, and deservingly, Alexander Usyk has definitely broken through that wall, and and it would not be bad for boxing if he won this fight. So let me just say that. But now, my prediction. Who do I think is going to win this fight between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk? And I have a hard time believing, because of the size, height, and skill between the two fighters, the style. You know, styles make fights, and to me, this is a definition of that. I have a hard time believing that Tyson Fury is going to lose this fight. But I do believe this fight could go either way. Tyson Fury, I'm giving him the victory by TKO in the 10th or 11th round. I just think, given the height and reach advantage and the fact that he knows how to box, and then also, I don't think Usyk moves enough, especially at his age anymore, to avoid Fury being able to press him and get on the inside and land those big shots. So I think that's going to wear down Alexander Usyk, and I think he is going to stop Alexander Usyk. Plus, Usyk has been the less active fighter over these last couple years, and I think that's going to play into Fury's hands as well. So I think Fury wins this fight by late knockout, but I absolutely believe that Usyk could win this fight by an upset knockout victory or by a decision and become the undisputed champion. But this is a great matchup. I can't wait to see it. Saturday, February 17th on ESPN pay-per-view. Hopefully Maris Bradis and Jai Opetaia, the rematch for the vacant IBF title, will be on the undercard. That's what we're hoping for. But again, guys, do not miss this. It's history in the making, whichever way it goes, and it's going to be exciting. So again, Saturday, February 17th on ESPN pay-per-view, Fury versus Usyk. This has been the breakdown video. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.